Welcome to my homeschool village. Hello, Fancy Fits and Lints and let's see. There, now I can see. Come on in. Becky here, homeschool mom to 5 kids. It's been 22 years almost now. And we have been homeschooling the whole time with the occasional mix of other resources, of course. Sometimes we have used the public school or the charter schools as resources, and sometimes we haven't. Hi, Linz. Hey, Fancy Fids. Hey, Spoonful of Charm and Ange. Come on in, you guys. I don't know how many, if you are homeschooling right now, give me a thumbs up. I'm curious. And when I say right now, I mean literally have started the year homeschooling. Hi, Tina, Esther, Daniel Land. Are you homeschooling right now? As in, you have started the year's homeschooling. Are you doing that? Give me a thumbs up if you are. I'm curious to see how many of you are actually homeschooling or have started. After many years of homeschooling, we really drag our feet on getting started. It's so nice to have great weather. We have rough winters here. We don't want to waste our good weather. So we're not really jumping on it too quickly. We are going to be spending some time outdoors in the next few weeks, doing lots of camping, and this is when we start hitting all the stuff where the public schoolers are now in school. So everything just opened up. So now we get back outside and to all the fun places. Today is actually not a bad day. We've been getting a lot of clouds from our beautiful cyclone from California. How are you guys doing in California? Hopefully you're all doing all right. So come on in, let us know. Jackie has stars in her eyes. What a fun name. Welcome. And Kathy, Granny. I'm grandma. I have one grandbaby. He is 7 months old now. That's our first child, has had her first baby, and we have entered the world of grandparenting, and it's pretty cool. So come on in. Let me know how we can help you with your homeschooling world. I had a very interesting experience this last week. A lot of people ask me about children who are homeschooled and how they function in the world. And I was talking to a young man the other day. He's 21, 22, had the best of educations, private schools in all over the world, and really had high education. And he told us the other day he was at one of his first internships out of college. And after his review, his boss suggested to him, because the young man asked how he could improve as an employee. And his boss's feedback was, when you bring me a problem, back it up with a solution. Don't just bring me a problem. And this young man said, well, I just didn't know what you wanted me to do with it. I thought, he was an A student, straight A student. And what he does is he wants to know what the A is will get him. And that's what he's going to present. And his boss said, no. I don't want you to tell me or to give me what I want. I want you to come up with a solution I may not come up with. I want you to think outside the box. I want you to come up with those. And he said, that's a really hard thing for him to do. He said, I'm an A student. I want to know what the right answer is. And that's what I'm going to give you. But with the best education in the world, he wasn't taught how to think on his own to solve the problem, how to find a problem, actually solve it, and then present it to his boss. And so he said that is something that he really struggles with. And I thought that was interesting because I can guarantee you my children probably don't have the best education in the world. They're getting taught by me. But the one thing that we really stress in our home is come up with your own, or solve your own problems. Come up with your own solutions. When you come up against something that you don't know, don't just wait for mom or dad to solve it. My children don't know how to be A students. They don't know how to please the person in charge. They know how to think on their own. They know how to solve the problem. And their top priority is not to please the adult in the room. And I really like that about homeschooling. I think most homeschoolers are raised that way. Not all, because some parents still raise their children to please mom and dad. But I think it's important as we homeschool our children that we do not raise our children to please the boss in the room, whether that's mom, whether that's the older sibling, whether it's a teacher, learning is not about pleasing the adult in the room. It's about pleasing oneself and learning for the sake of learning, for the joy of learning, for what you get out of it, what you have to share with the world. And those are things that in homeschooling we're able to do better. And so that's just something I wanted to share with you. It was an interesting story this weekend because said young man has been pretty anti-homeschooling and a little judgmental about our homeschooling. And I could point that out to him. I said, you know, my children are getting a different education than your children, or than you are. But one thing that my kids can do is they're not afraid to stand up to an authority figure, especially if they find that authority figure to be abusing power. That's something that we do talk a lot about. I actually had a conversation yesterday with a daughter who's in Peru, and she said, Mom, there's this person in charge and they're abusing their authority. And I said, sweetheart, and this is what we talk about. You need to learn to stand up to authority when they're not standing up on their own, or when they're not standing up properly. And so she's learning how to stand up to authority around her as well. And I think that's a very, very important lesson to teach our children. So just part of the homeschool journey. I think it's a parent journey. I think that's something all parents should be teaching. Your children don't have to be homeschooled to learn these things, but it's easier because you're not fighting the world to teach it. It's just something that you teach. Please ask any questions you have as you're homeschooling your children, as you're getting started. We have been doing it for 21 years, and I have just about every resource, every idea, thought. I've been coaching for 10 on how to homeschool and helping other mothers homeschool. Actually, longer than that. I have friends that I started helping out when we were just a few years in. So I've been coaching homeschooling for about 15 years. I'm homeschooling myself for 21. My oldest is 21. My youngest is 11. And we're still homeschooling. We have changed tactics a lot over the last 20 years. I started out thinking public school, trying to imitate public school at home, had a lot of frustrated children. We created a homeschool room, had a lot of frustrated children. We bought expensive curriculums and made our children do them, had a lot of frustrated children. You see the pattern there? Once we finally let go and realized that the entire home was our learning space, the whole world is our learning space. Once we let go of a schoolroom, once we let go of the public school schedule, and we just did what came naturally to us, education became an absolute joy. And our children love to be creative and to find their own projects and to learn on their own now. And honestly, homeschooling gets easier every year. Easier every year. And my children now do pretty much everything on their own. When they were little, I had to teach them everything: reading, writing, math, all of it. Now they're old enough to learn from others, to learn from YouTube, to learn from the programs inside my homeschool village, to observe, to make their own goals on what they want to learn and to go learn it. These are all things that our kids can do now. And so I really am more of an overseer now that our kids are older. I oversee their education more than actually provide it and do it for them. So as they get older and learn to do that, homeschooling teens is a piece of cake if you start early, if you start in those early elementary years. So tell me, how many of you have started homeschooling already? Like the education year. How many of you started doing that? And how many of you are waiting? So give me a thumbs up if you have already started. If you're waiting, give me a hands up and let's see where everybody's at. I'm curious to see how many of you have gotten started. Ooh, started, huh? How's it going? Do you have any, how long have you been doing it? Just this week, I wonder? Or, yeah, how's it going? The first few weeks are always fun. It's like, even when in public school, the first few weeks are fun, right? It's week 4 to 5 where you're starting to go, oh my gosh. And then you take a week off and then you start again. And so every 5 to 6 weeks, we will take an entire week off, whether we do a staycation, whether we just go out and do fun things, whatever it is, we try to get out. But you need that break every 4 to 5 weeks. I love it. I get to learn with my babies. I've been homeschooling for 2 years. Nice. You found it. You found the secret to homeschooling, which is learn alongside them. Yes. When we are standing over them, trying to tell them what to learn, doesn't go so well. When you sit next to them and say, hey, let's check this out, that's when you find the true joy in homeschooling and the real fun of mothering, I think. So I am happy that you have found it. Well done. Well done. Hi. Yes. Good. How many are you homeschooling? Shepherd family, how many you got? Hi, Jennifer. LGDia. Welcome. Come on in. I'm answering homeschooling questions, talking homeschooling today, seeing if anybody needs any help. I have resources for everything. If whatever you need, you let me know. We do have a group if you haven't seen it yet. You got 5. You homeschool too. Is that because they're all younger or they're older? I have 5 myself. There was a short time when I was homeschooling all of them at once. There was probably only about 10 years out of that 20 where I had all of them at once. Now, and then they started to get older and spread out. So homeschooling too, does that mean the others are gone or the others are smaller? Bye. Love you.
Have fun.
Enjoy. Be safe.
You too.
That is my 16-year-old, about to be 17, who is not doing a senior year. He is doing in culinary arts for now. He'd like to learn how to cook. He's doing that just so that he can, he says, be a better husband and father. And then he will head out on an LDS mission, and then he'll decide what he wants to do. So, hi, Katie. Welcome. Okay, how many kids do you guys have? How many kids are we homeschooling right now? How many of you are just interested in homeschooling but haven't decided yet? When just finished high school, my daughter's autistic, so I put her in school. Okay, nice. Big Daddy, hi. Hope Bingham, hello. So you got, 2 at home. How did I teach my children to read? Now that is a loaded question, and here's why. I have 5 children, and all 5 needed a different version. And that was a little hard to figure out at first. Child number 1 studied on starfall.com on her own because I was having other babies and she wanted to go and I couldn't keep up. I put her on starfall.com. She learned to teach. She taught herself to read at 4, moved on. Child number 2, who's only a year older or younger, she refused to learn, had no interest in it until she became like 8. In the meantime, I tried every book, every program, every idea, thinking that she was dyslexic and had learning disabilities. Turns out she had a mechanical mind and just didn't care. At about 8, she realized everybody could read but her. I said, Mom, will you teach me to read? Learned it in a couple months. Child number 3 is a boy, had absolutely no interest in reading until he was about 7 or 8. And he wanted me to read to him a Lego instruction manual. And I told him I wouldn't do it, that he could do it himself. And that's when he decided to learn to read. What we did is read scripture together. And I would point to the words, read out loud. He would then pick up the words as he could go. I would say, can you do all the thes? And he would do all the thes and I would do the rest. And every day we would add a word and he would do that word. He was reading within just a few months once he decided. I actually had to bribe him a little bit. We would buy Lego, those little Lego boxes of little things at Walmart that were like $20. And he would read a line and gain 1 Lego and read a line and gain a Lego. And we probably went through 3 Lego boxes before he was reading on his own. So that's how we did number 3, because he was the hardest. Number 4 was like number 1. She just wanted to learn to read, practically taught herself. And I think she used Starfall and just reading with her other siblings. And then the last child read scripture with me. The 2 of us, he just sat in my lap, we'd read scripture, and he just got it. I don't even know how that one worked. So it did help that the older kids would read to the younger kids. Once my older ones were there, they loved snuggling with younger siblings and would read with them. So my younger kids did a lot of help with the older kids helped a lot with the youngers. CT, I don't have kids, but I gave a G baby who is 10 months old who I want to homeschool. Can I start now? A grandbaby who's 10 months, so I want to start. Honestly, at 10 months, what you're doing is teaching. When you are mothering, you teach naturally. When you say, can I start homeschooling? Can you start teaching a child? Yes, anytime. But don't start pushing any kind of formal education until age 7. Like 7 and 8 is when they're old enough to even fathom it. So you don't want to teach a child anything that they cannot apply today. If they can apply it in their lives today, teach them. If they can't apply it for a couple more years, don't waste the mind space. Just teach them the things they can apply today. Your son is 7 and refuses. So what you do is you find his favorite thing. Yeah, you're welcome. So is he a Lego guy? Like this was frustrating for me and my 7-year-old when he was 7 too. He's almost 17 now. He's reading just fine. Still doesn't love it, but he can. But yeah, that Lego thing was the trick. You find their monetary value, whether it's time with you and they earn a minute for every line they read, whether it's play time, free time that they want to do something they can earn. That was what worked for my third child, my boy, who very ADHD. One of the other things we did a lot was listen to a lot of books. So in the car, we were listening to books. I would let him do audio. I'd turn on audiobooks while they would Lego. So they're still getting the vocabulary. They're still getting the sentence structure. They're still getting the stories. So helping them fall in love with the story is key to helping them learn to read, because learn to read for the sake of reading is pointless to most children. Falling in love with the story first, so you read to them a lot, you listen to a lot of books, then you go to falling in love with the story, and then you find them books that they love the story. Like at that age, one of the books that really got my son reading was Dog Man. Potty humor, total 7-year-old stuff, but it got him reading and it worked. So you're welcome, CT. He loves video games. He also has a speech delay. So if video games is what he loves, then I would put together a chart and be like, okay, every time, you have to read me 10 lines to get 10 minutes of video game time. I did that with one child. When there's things that don't work for us, I would have them earn things they wanted through some of the homework. I mean, life is about work than play. Life is about earn what you need. So they would have to, I don't know whether or not that's okay, but with a speech delay, I would think listening to books would be extremely helpful because of the copying that they do. They told me my son was dyslexic. How do I go about helping him? There is a book called The Dyslexic Advantage. The whole book talks to you about the advantages of being dyslexic, and you can find it on Amazon. I read it when I thought my second child had some dyslexia. So did my third, which is also part of the reading delay. And I checked out that book. I actually bought the book because I loved it so much. And you go through it, and what you realize is dyslexia is not necessary. Yes, it's hard. It makes it hard for them to read, but it also comes with it a lot of strengths, a lot of brilliance, a lot of different ways that they think. And by reading the book, The Dyslexic Advantage, you will understand your child's brain better and be able to help them better. So I always recommend The Dyslexic Advantage. By the time I read it out loud to my kids, it's made for adults to understand dyslexia, but I read it out loud to them because it helped them see. They thought they were dumb because they weren't picking up reading. And when they read The Dyslexic Advantage, they would go through and be like, wait, Mom, that's me. Wait, that's me. Wait, you mean I'm smart like that guy? And it shares stories of brilliant people who were dyslexic and what they did with their dyslexia. It talks about a man who had thousands of patents and was a brilliant inventor, but still couldn't read. His wife did all his reading and writing for him. So I think it's important to understand, read The Dyslexic Advantage, understand the strengths that come with dyslexia and how to use them. It also helps you to be patient with it. A lot of dyslexia they grow out of. Some of it is because they're just still too young. Some kids really shouldn't be reading before the age of 5 or 6. Some kids do great. So get The Dyslexic Advantage, read through it thoroughly, read it out loud to your children, let them see how smart they are, and then work out a plan together. My kids, after I read that book out loud to them, it was like a little bit every night. Don't worry, it wasn't like in one sitting. It was like as long as they could while they were doing Legos, as long as they would pay attention, and I'd move on. And some of it I read alone, and some of it I read out loud, and sometimes I'd be like, guys, I read this part last night, you got to hear this. And it really helped them see that they weren't alone, they weren't dumb, and it helped me see that there were ways for me to help their child, or to help my child get around it and work around it. So, hope that helps. Did that help? Good. As far as the video games go, we have a rule in our house that I need to get better at, because now that I have only one child at home really playing video games, that youngest child gets away with a lot more than the older ones did. And I need to get back on to what I did with the older kids. But I have found that the more video games I let my child on, the worse his speech is, the worse his reading is. I'm not anti-video game. I think that there's a lot of problem-solving skills and hand-eye coordination that's good in there. I am against the addiction of a video game, and so we do require certain homework and jobs and things done before they can play. They have to earn their time. Thank you. I'm going to look into it. I pulled my son out because I didn't see improvement. Yeah, you're not going to see improvement in the school systems with that kind of thing. I don't know what program you're using right now for homeschooling. You go check out my Homeschool Villages program. We have a membership and it provides everything you need to homeschool your child. Everything. So everything from all your printables. We have all the programs. We have everything you need. Right now my mind's going a little blank, but go check out our membership. I think it'll help you a lot. Hi, Tony Vega Gomez. Welcome. We are talking homeschooling today, and I'm here to answer your questions as you have struggles with dyslexia or special needs or children who don't want to read, or maybe you're having some behavioral issues with a new child being homeschooled. I love teenagers. If any of you have teenagers and you're struggling with your teen, that's really my specialty. I love to help homeschool parents with teenagers. I have found, I have worked a lot with teens, especially in the public school system, oddly enough. And I have discovered that teenagers truly suffer and struggle with low expectations by the adults around them, broken dreams from the adults around them, and it affects these teens. And it's interesting, when you pull your teenager out of the public school system, they begin to dream again. A teenager who's in the public school system, it's the ultimate dream killer. The teachers that are in that environment have had their dreams smashed working in the public school system, and they're smashing kids' dreams, whether intentionally or unintentionally. And not everybody. There's some amazing teachers out there. But I have a brother-in-law who works, and he's a public school teacher, and he himself says it's such a depressing atmosphere, these poor kids. And I'm like, even he hates it. So what about an autistic child? You mean like, what about them as far as can you homeschool them? Autistic children should be homeschooled, period. Every autistic child, and really every child, is so individual and has such individual needs. Nobody knows that better than their parent. Nobody. And there is no system in the world fit for a dyslexic or an autistic or any child, really. How do you go about it? Okay, go click on the link in my bio. Inside is a homeschool roadmap, totally free. It will get you started. It'll tell you how to pull them out. It'll tell you how to get started with like the basics, how to figure out what their learning styles are, where links are that you're going to need. But if you're looking to actually homeschool that autistic child, go get my Homeschool Villages membership. We have hundreds of parents in there that are homeschooling autistic children, and our program is so customizable that you can go in and their math can be 8th grade level while their reading is 4th grade level. It doesn't matter. It's about where your child's at. And if you're looking to customize their education, what we have done is we have combined hundreds of resources into one program so you can go in and pick what your child needs. We call it a homeschool buffet. We've created the buffet. You choose what goes on your child's plate and at what level. So go check out my Homeschool Village, our membership. Just click on the link in our bio. You'll find our free roadmap, which gives you the get started. You'll find a link to our membership, which gives you everything you need to homeschool. And we also coach all week long. We're in there helping every day. So you're not alone once you join us. During the pandemic, we got him reading when the school hadn't. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me because you're the parent and you love him. My sister is the director of special ed in her school, and she's the first to tell me children with IEPs need to be homeschooled because we cannot serve them the way they need. She said what a child needs, the state gets in the way too much, and if a child would be homeschooled, they would do better. So IEPs and special ed is like the world's way of trying to make up for a homeschooler. It's the world's way of trying to replace a parent. So when you, the parent, bring your child home, you're doing 10 times the job as a specialist because you know them better. We just had to give him a reason it was useful. Both my kids are in IEPs. So an individual education plan, guys, is homeschooling. Every homeschooled child has an individual education plan. Every single one of my kids has their own path of study. We use my Homeschool Villages membership for all of my children, And each one of them, we have gone in and said, okay, what are your skills? What are your talents? What are your goals? What do you need to learn this year? Because they're different ages and different interests. And we went in, and everybody has their computer, and we went in and bookmarked each of their schedules and their ideas and their whatever. And we go through and make everybody their classes that we're going to pay for. And we schedule all that out, but every child is individual. I have IEPs for my children. None of them are special needs, but they all have IEPs. Doesn't every child deserve an individual education plan? Regardless of autistic or any kind of learning disability, every child deserves an individual education plan. That's what homeschooling is. So if you're worried about that, the only thing, I'm trying to think that the negative, but there's not, leaving the system. There's nothing negative about it, except that now you have your kids around a lot more. But that's okay, because they learn to entertain themselves and they're not at your feet all the time. Once your children have been home for long enough that they feel comfortable and they realize that free time is their time to do with what they want, they stop following you around and needing you all the time, and they become independent and very confident, and it's a beautiful thing. Hi, Kit Kat. Hi, Press. Come on in. We're talking about homeschooling today. The only challenge is when he refuses to do work. So here's a thought for that. When he refuses to do work, what is his benefit to doing it? My children have a list. They have to have that list done before they're allowed to play video games, watch a movie, do art. They have to have that done. Now, I give them the freedom. If you don't want to do it all day long, you want to lay around all day and not do it till evening, that's fine. But the family's going out, or we're going to go do something. Your homework has to be done before you can. They have learned very quickly to get it done. So if a friend calls, they're ready. So it only took a couple of missed outings for them to go, oh my gosh, I'm going to get it done first thing in the morning so I can go be free. So it's about teaching them that get this done and then you can be free. Also, make sure that you're not, like, what is the work you're asking him to do? Are you asking him to do an entire page of math? And maybe that's overwhelming for him, especially if he's autistic. Maybe five problems is all the idea. And maybe it's all he should have as an assignment. Maybe you need to break it down into 5-minute increments instead of hours or half hours. So sometimes it's about the time. Sometimes it's about they have no control. School requires, here's what's interesting. School over requires, but under teaches. At home, you teach by doing less. So when they're home, because you're discussing things with them all day, they're asking questions, you're answering those questions, they can get more done in 10 minutes at home than they can get done in an hour at school. So your children learn faster by doing less work at home. And at school, they do more work and learn less. So get rid of the school